We usually think of Greek heroes in a very specific way. Muscles, swords, shouting at the sky, that kind of thing. But the more I looked at the research for today's topic, Perseus, I just kept thinking, is this guy really a hero? Or is he more like, I don't know, an ancient special ops soldier given top-tier gear to just take out a target?
It's a really valid question. The Perseus myth is, it's different. It's missing that struggle you see with, say, Heracles. When you read the sources, like the Bibliotheca or Pausanias, it feels less like an epic and more like a tactical briefing.
Yeah.
It's a thriller about a king trying to cheat fate and a hero who is, well, basically a divine hitman.
Divine hitman. I like that. It's a strong label, and I think we should test that theory today. Our mission is to figure out if Perseus was actually the protagonist of his own story, or if he was just, a pawn on a chessboard being played by Zeus and Athena.
That's the core of it. Because for a guy who gets a happy ending, and spoiler, he actually survives, he seems to have surprisingly little free will. It all comes down to the Greek concept of fate. And fate isn't a suggestion, it's this crushing industrial machine. Perseus might be the most managed hero in that whole system.
Well, that machine starts grinding long before he's even born. We have to start with the villain, King Acrisius of Argos. And his motivation, it feels terrifyingly real. He's not trying to conquer the world, he's just scared of dying.
It's the Paranoia's kings, isn't it? Acrisius goes to the oracle at Delphi asking for a son, which is pretty standard. But the oracle gives him a total nightmare scenario. She says, you will have no sons and your grandson will kill you.
Okay, so he goes on the defensive. But the way he does it, the sources vary a bit here, right? Some show a tower, but others mention a bronze chamber.
Yes, and Pausanias claimed he actually saw the ruins. The text describes an underground bronze chamber. Just think about that for a second. The cold, the dark. He's not just imprisoning his daughter Danae. He's burying her alive to make sure she never, ever has a child.
That is just grim. It's solitary confinement. But this is where the rules of mythology get a little weird. Acrisius builds a vault to keep men out, but he forgets that gods don't really care about walls.
Exactly. Enter Zeus. He sees Danae, and since he can't just walk in, he transforms. The myth calls it a shower of gold.
I've always wondered about that. Are we talking literal gold coins raining down on her? That sounds painful.
It's probably more symbolic, like liquid light, or the sun's rays finally breaking into that darkness.
Yeah.
But you can't ignore the other meaning. Gold as power, as influence. However it happened, the result is biology. Danae gets pregnant.
And imagine Acrisius' panic. He hears a baby crying from inside a sealed metal box. He opens it and there's Perseus, so why not just kill them? If he's that paranoid, why the whole wooden chest routine?
That's the concept of miasma, the pollution. Killing your own blood was like a spiritual radioactive event. It would summon the Furies. So he's terrified of the gods. He chooses a passive execution. He puts them in the chest, throws it in the sea, and if they die, he can say, hey, the sea did it, not me.
It's the ultimate wash your hands of it move. But fate, or the sea, has other plans. They wash up on Seriphos and are found by Dictys, a fisherman, a real stand-up guy.
But of course, every good brother in mythology seems to have an evil one, and that's King Polydectes. He's the ruler, and he becomes the architect of Perseus' whole ordeal. He wants Danae, but Perseus, now a grown man, is in the way.
Right, and he knows he can't just fight a demigod son of Zeus, so he changes the game. He moves the fight from, a brawl to a banquet.
The banquet trap. It's pure social engineering. Polydectes tells all the nobles to bring a horse as a gift. He knows Perseus is poor.
He's living on a fisherman's salary. He's broke. It's a calculated public shaming.
And it works. Perseus shows up empty-handed. The shame is just burning him up. And that triggers what you might call shonen rage.
Right. For anyone who hasn't watched a lot of anime, that's when the young hero gets backed into a corner and just explodes with emotional power, right?
Exactly. It's a completely irrational outburst. Perseus snaps and yells, I'll bring you anything you want, even the head of the Gorgon Medusa.
And you can just picture Polydectes trying not to smile. He just says, done, bring me the head. He knows it's a suicide mission.
Absolutely. Medusa's gaze turns you to stone. Instantly. There's no defense for a normal human. He expects Perseus to be a statue within a week.
But this is where we get back to that divine hitman theory. A normal hero would go off and train for years. Perseus doesn't. He just sort of goes for a walk, and suddenly Athena and Hermes show up.
And the whole tone shifts. They don't give him advice, they give him hardware. Athena especially treats this like a strategy game. Some versions say she even had a grudge against Medusa, so she's using Perseus as a proxy.
Okay, let's do the inventory, because this is where the heroism gets questionable. If you walk into a fight with this gear, can you even lose? First, the winged sandals.
flight and speed, he can control the entire engagement.
Then the hark, an adamantine sickle. Adamantine just means unbreakable, right?
Yeah, diamond hard. It's designed to cut things that aren't supposed to be cut, like immortal flesh.
And you've got the helm of darkness from Hades for invisibility, a magic bag, a cabesus, and the polished shield from Athena.
And that shield is the key piece of tech. It lets him see the target indirectly. But I want to pause on his name for a second. Perseus. There's a linguistic theory that his name comes from the Greek verb perthin,
Which means?
to waste, to sack, to destroy.
Why is
So his name might literally be the Destroyer. He's not a builder, he's a weapon.
That is ominous, especially considering his first stop isn't even Medusa's lair. He goes to the Grey Sisters. And this scene, I have to say, it bothers me.
It's a shakedown, pure and simple. 3 old women who share one eye and one tooth. He waits for that moment of vulnerability when they're passing the eye.
And he just snatches it. He holds their sight hostage. I mean, is that heroic? He's exploiting 3 elderly disabled beings for intel.
It's certainly not chivalrous. But it fits the Hitman persona, doesn't it? A professional doesn't care about fairness. He cares about the objective. So he gets the location and just leaves.
So he gets the coordinates, flies to the edge of the world. What's the scene like when he gets there?
It's a garden of horror. The sources describe a landscape littered with statues. But they're not sculptures. They're people, frozen in poses of absolute terror. Warriors, travelers, all turned to stone.
A graveyard.
Exactly. And Perseus flies over it, finds the Gorgon sleeping. And this part is key. He attacks a sleeping target.
Very special ops. No honorable duel. He uses the reflection, hovers over Medusa, and...
One clean cut with the harp, decapitation. He bags the head in the cabeçus without ever looking at it.
And then all hell breaks loose.
Right. From her neck spring Pegasus, the winged horse, and Chrysaor, the golden warrior. Medusa's sisters, Stheno and Uriel, wake up screaming, and they're immortal, so Perseus can't fight them.
So he puts on the helm of darkness and just ghosts them.
Vanishes. He's airborne and on his way home before they even know what happened. Mission complete.
But the journey home is almost as eventful as the mission. This is where we see the power of the weapon he's carrying. He stops where Atlas is holding up the sky.
Right, and this part is fascinating. He asks her hospitality, and Atlas refuses. Violently.
Okay.
But there's a reason. Atlas had his own prophecy that a son of Zeus would come and steal his golden apples.
So when Perseus shows up and says, "Hi, I'm a son of Zeus," Atlas just assumes he's there to rob him.
Exactly. A misunderstanding fueled by fate. Atlas tries to fight him, but you can't fight a titan. So Perseus reaches into the bag.
And this isn't just turning a man into a statue.
No, this is geological terraforming. Atlas's body becomes the Atlas Mountain Range in North Africa. His beard and hair become forests. His bones become bedrock.
That's terrifying. He's carrying a tactical nuke in a knapsack. And yet, when he gets to Ethiopia and sees Andromeda, he switches from destroyer to, what, a businessman?
That's a great way of putting it. He sees her chained to the rock, waiting for the sea monster, Cetus. And he doesn't just swoop in. He lands and starts negotiating with her father.
He literally says, "I can save her, but what's in it for me?"
He demands her hand in marriage and the kingdom as payment. Only after they agree to the terms does he actually fight the monster.
So transactional. He kills Cetus, saves the girl, gets the kingdom, but then at the wedding...
Phineas, her uncle and ex-fiancé, shows up with an army. He didn't do anything to save her, but now that she's marrying a hero, he wants her back.
And Perseus doesn't even bother with a duel. He just yells to his friends, "Look away!"
And pulls out the head. In an instant, the entire wedding brawl is over. Phineas and his men are stoned. It's an admin kill. He just wiped the server.
So with his new wife, he finally goes back to Seriphos, walks into Polydectes' court,
And reveals the head one last time. Polydectes and all his followers become a permanent art installation. He makes the good fisherman, Discus the new king.
just as served. He gives the magic items back to the gods. Athena puts the head on her shield, the aegis. It feels like the story should end there. But we still have that one loose end.
The prophecy. Acrisius is still alive. Perseus goes to Argos to make peace. But Acrisius hears he's coming and flees in terror to a city called Larissa.
He thinks he can outrun fate.
But Perseus just happens to travel to Larissa for some athletic games. He enters the discus throw.
And this is the moment. This is where the divine hitman becomes the divine pawn.
He steps up, he throws the heavy bronze disc, but the wind catches it. Or maybe, a god nudges it. It flies off course into the crowd and hits an old man.
And of course, it's Acrisius.
He dies instantly. The prophecy that Acrisius spent his entire life trying to avoid is fulfilled, not by murder, but by total accident. Perseus was just the delivery mechanism.
Wow, the tragedy of it. He didn't even mean to do it.
But in the Greek world, there are no accidents. The circle is now closed.
So normally a hero killing a relative ends very badly. Furies, madness, a tragic death. But Perseus, he's different.
He's the anomaly. He feels shame, so he swaps kingdoms with a cousin and founds the great city of Mycenae. He builds the famous Cyclopean walls.
And he stays married to Andromeda.
He does. A long, successful reign, lots of children. And here's a wild connection. Herodotus writes that the Persian kings, the mortal enemies of the Greeks, actually claimed they were descended from Perseus.
Wait, the Persians? Why?
Because Perseus had a son named Perseus. So for the Persian kings, claiming lineage from a son of Zeus gave them a huge dose of divine legitimacy.
That's amazing. And speaking of strange connections, I have to bring up Moby Dick. Herman Melville calls Perseus the first whaler.
It's a brilliant bit of writing. Ishmael argues that because Perseus killed Cetus, the sea monster, to save Andromeda, he was technically a whaler. It shows how you can frame this myth in so many ways. Hero, hitman, whaler.
So we come back to the big question. He gets the happy ending, dies of old age, becomes a constellation. Why him? Why does he get a pass when Oedipus and Achilles suffer so much?
I think it's because he never questioned his orders. When the gods handed him a weapon, he used it. When they pointed him at a target, he destroyed it. He never had the hubris to think he knew better.
So he wasn't a hero in the sense of a moral champion. He was the perfect soldier.
He was efficient, obedient. And in the eyes of the Olympian gods, maybe that's the only kind of heroism that's actually allowed to survive.
That's a chilling thought. We think of rebellion as heroic, but in this world, compliance is what keeps you alive.
It certainly kept Perseus alive.
Well, on that note, next time you look up at the constellation Perseus, remember, you're not just looking at a hero, you're looking at the guy who cleaned up the gods' messes and never once asked why. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.
My pleasure.
Stay curious and watch out for any low-flying prophecies. See you next time.